Well, then disaster teams in the Eastern Cape face another long night as people who are displaced by this week's storms seek shelter, while others are trying to make sense of the loss of loved ones. 49 people, as we've been reporting, have died in the worst rains to hit the Eastern Cape so far this year. In Mthatha, emergency workers have had to pluck children to safety as they clung onto trees on Tuesday. SABC News reporter Abongile Jantjies attended that briefing held by the provincial government. He's live for us in our Mthatha office this evening. Abongile, so 49 people known to have died. Is the expectation from the government and disaster officials that many more bodies might still be found?
Indeed, Temekile, the expectation is that there are more bodies to be found as we speak now, and they will resume with their search and rescue operations tomorrow, where the statistics by overnight would have increased and more detail would have known more details with regards to these incidents that have happened here in the OR Tambo district, particularly here in Mthatha. Well, the Premier didn't mince his words. He said that this disaster is by far the worst he has ever experienced for the province of the Eastern Cape, and they are pushing for that. They are pushing that it be declared, the province be declared a disaster area, so that more assistance could be roped in particularly into these areas where you mentioned that roads, even schools. The MEC Fundile Guardia for Education said that about 6,000 learners were impacted, coming from 58 different schools between the Amatole district and OR Tambo and Alfred Nzo district, where they were affected by this, where schooling had to stop. You recall that even now we are in the middle of, they are busy with the exams currently, and they are saying that they are trying to find alternative means to accommodate those learners, saying that they'll try by all means that the academic year doesn't go to a waste, and that those affected learners' plans will be put in place. And the issue which has quite raised sharply here is that the issue of people building houses in low-lying areas. They are saying that most of the people who are affected by these disasters are people by this incident are people who build houses in low-lying areas next to riverbanks, and when it rains like that, and those people become the victims of that. So they are saying that they'll be working with traditional authorities to desist from handing over land to areas that poses a risk to their lives, and that even the King Sabata Dalingyebo municipality during this briefing even said that they'll be strengthening their bylaws and educating people on where and where not to build houses, right, so that incidents like this could be avoided. We're expecting the COCTA minister tomorrow with the education minister to come to this area of OR Tambo.
And Abongile, is the plan then, if the government is saying that people shouldn't build, for instance, on floodplains, is the government then going to resettle these people on safer ground?
That's the talk that's to be held, and they didn't make any commitment to that effect, but they are saying that there should be a means of persuasion to those people who have already built their houses there, and to avoid some even erecting houses there. So there's no commitment yet to that effect, but they are putting out this word and putting out the warning that if you build to those areas, these are the consequences of what might happen to you when this disaster hits the province again.
And the worst single tragedy that we know of so far in terms of the devastation that's been wrought by these floods in the Eastern Cape is around the Scholar transport vehicle that got into trouble on Tuesday morning. We now know 4 children, 2 adults who were on board have now confirmed to have died, but the search continues for 4 more. When do we expect that to resume? Because it's now nighttime and operations have stopped.
Operations are expected to start early in the morning tomorrow. Yes, that's quite the devastating of those learners that possibly their lives would have been cut short, because now they are coming to the reality that we're no longer looking for people. They are no longer looking for people who are alive, people who are deceased, because of those floods and their effects. They are saying that people should turn their heads and come to the reality that maybe prepare for a funeral, and that's why the Social Development MEC Bukiwe Fanta will also address this briefing here, saying that they are dispatching a team of psychosocial and social workers to this area of OR Tambo to deal with the issue of psychosocial services, Temekile. And the talk of maybe when this has come and gone, and when we reach the step of funeral preparations, the provincial government didn't rule out the possibility of having a mass funeral for these flood victims,
right,
because they are saying that it's something that they've never experienced before.
And briefly, Abongile, there's also the issue of mass displacement in Butterworth. Hundreds of people have had to take shelter in one or more community halls. Do we know how many people have now been forced to leave their homes, either because they've been damaged, destroyed, to be elsewhere? And how equipped is the Eastern Cape Provincial Government to be able to care for them at this time?
Well, at Butterworth, the numbers when we passed there earlier on today, over 1,000 people had to be evacuated, and the community halls were full to capacity, and they were even using schools now to accommodate residents who have been displaced. And when I engaged with some of those residents earlier on this morning, they were telling us that they will return to those areas, those low-lying areas where their shacks were swept away, were washed away, because they are saying that it's really close to the economic activities of the town of Butterworth. And they're saying the area where the municipality plans to place them is very far from the town of Butterworth, and they do not have the financial means to be commuting to the town. So they are saying that they'll be back to rebuild their lives from where it started. I understand that the gift of the givers was expected to hand over around 1,000 blankets to those people of Butterworth, and the provincial government did mention that the support that they are bringing here in Mthatha, in the OR Tambo district and the Great Kai area, it will also be given to those people who are placed in Butterworth.
Abongile Jantjies for us in the Eastern Cape, and Mthatha, to be exact, one of the worst affected areas after those heavy rains in the Eastern Cape.